I'm Sherry from the LaSalle Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make a watercolor cityscape. So the very first thing we're going to do is talk about supplies. And of course, if you don't have some of them, we'll talk about substitutions. Of course, you're going to need to start with some paper. I'm going to use some watercolor paper that came from a pad, but if you don't have that, it's possible that most of us will have some printer paper laying around the house. And if you're in a real pinch, a paper bag will even work. We're also going to need, of course, some watercolors. You can get these at any kind of dollar store. Also, acrylic paints will work. You're just going to have to water them down. Next, we're going to need some tape. I like to use painter's tape, but masking tape will work. And again, if you have to, Scotch tape will work. We're going to need a paintbrush. And if you don't have a paintbrush around the house, a foam brush will work, or you can even roll up a paper towel. We're going to need a couple of a pen or two for outlining, either a marker or a black pen. It's up to you. And finally, we're going to need some water. So I got a couple containers here for dirty water and clean water, and we'll discuss that more while we're painting. This is something called a resist painting. And the very first thing we're going to do is put down some tape to resist the paint. If you look at the buildings, they're all white. And then there's paint all around them. So the paint didn't get under the tape, it resisted it. So here's our blank piece of paper and our tape. Now, if I were to just go ahead and put this piece of tape down on the paper, we're going to find that it sticks too well. And we don't want to be pulling off any of the layers of paper. So if you have like an old t-shirt, I just got a piece of cloth here, and you just stretch it out on there, gets rid of some of the glue, and then you can just start laying down your buildings. So you can make them tall or short or fat or skinny, whatever you want to do. Also, if you don't want your buildings to have that kind of ragged look, just cut the tape before, which is what I'm going to do. And then I got myself a skyscraper here. Block off as many as you want. And now we're ready to paint. The important thing with watercolors is to note the difference on how they paint on a wet surface versus a dry surface. We've got our paint, our brush, our clean and dirty water. When you're going to a new color on your paint palette, you want to go into your clean water. So I'm going to illustrate the different results using the wet and dry method. Use your clean water to wet the brush every time you want a new color. I'm just going to use some of this purple. See, now my paintbrush is dirty because it has paint on it. The paper is dry, so let's see how this looks. Oh, that's pretty. And it has some nice edges on it. So let's see what happens on wet paper. So you clean your brush off in your dirty water, which that's what this one's going to be. And then you gotta dab it off, dry it off on a paper towel. And then we're gonna go back to our clean water with the brush. And then we're going to just wet the paper. So we're going to wet the paper, and then we're going to use the same color just so we can spot the difference. Oh yeah, see how that's very different, and it bleeds into it. Yes, gradually. That's going to look awesome. Now that you know the difference, choose one and let's begin painting. So I'm going to wet my brush, and I think I'm going to start with some blue for the sky. And I really enjoyed using it on the dry paper. Don't worry if you make any mistakes, you can go back, fix them later if you don't like the way it looks. Of course, your paper may bend a little bit, but that's okay. It's going to dry and you can always straighten it out later. Remember to go right over the tape. Make sure you get in there. The corners. Time now. Rinse it off. Go to another color. Clean water. The sky is going to change its colors a little bit. Right across the page. Don't worry. If you go over another color, it's going to blend together and look awesome eventually. And time to change another color. Time for the end of the horizon to look a little orangey. I know it's darker, closer to the bottom, so I'm going to try to make sure those colors are a little darker at the bottom. And then you can just blend it up as you go along. Don't worry if you have streaks of white, because then it will just kind of look like clouds. Okay, that was pretty quick. Now let your painting sit until it's completely dry. So now our paint is dry and it's time to remove the tape. Just remember to peel it off slowly and carefully so you don't rip your paper. So we're just going to slowly pull it. There we go. And as you can see, some of the paint did get up under one of these buildings, but that's okay. And now it's time to draw on the buildings. One other piece I did before, I did something that I was familiar with, which is some buildings across the river from us, the Renaissance Center in downtown Detroit. But you can do anything you want. You can make up your own make-believe fantasy city, or you could Google some images of skylines that you visited before that you like, or mix and match them, which is I kind of did. I knew a couple of these buildings, some I just made up. So I'm using a black pen to do the outline, but you can use whatever you like, markers or crayons, colored pencils, anything you want. So I am just going to start filling it in. Don't worry if it's not perfectly straight or if some of the colors bleeds in. That's okay. It's going to give it a little bit of character. Here's my building. And now it's time for some windows. So I'm just going to throw a few in here. Great big one up here. And as you can see, wherever your imagination leads you. The big round door down there. That's a huge door. Then voila. Then you just keep filling it in. That concludes our instruction on our city color waterscape. Thanks for painting along with me.